Anthony Wright. I started a law firm called LexFuck about 18 months ago now, so it's still very early days, but I couldn't be happier with what LexFuck has achieved over the last 18 months and what the future entails. I started working in a traditional law firm first year out of school and started doing my articles while I was still studying. So I worked in that law firm from when I was about 18 till my early 20s, and then actually moved in-house. Probably when I was in my 20s, I always thought the grass was greener somewhere else, and had ambitions to be a CEO and work outside of the law. I did that in two different roles. Actually, for a listed company, I worked as the head of strategy there, and then actually worked in sport and entertainment for a while. But what it actually made me realise is that I really liked the law, but not 5 days a week. And I really liked the intersection of business and the law. And so it made 2 years ago, when I was thinking about writing a business plan, it made me really kind of work out, well, what do I want to do? I want to be my own boss. I like the law and I like business. It just made sense to start LexFuck. What does LexFuck do? What we're trying to do is actually help large organisations or medium-sized organisations get better outcomes from legal services. What does that actually mean? It means people, systems, tools and technology. People, I still think, play the most important part. Our view on the types of lawyers that we want working for us are people that deeply understand the in-house way of doing legal work. So we won't employ anyone that's just worked at a law firm. I think that's what law firms do very well. We want people that deeply understand sectors and how those sectors make money or not, and what the key legal issues are in those sectors. And then the second part of what we do is actually consulting and strategy work, particularly for in-house legal teams. So this is not about, let me rephrase it, it's about how do you become a better lawyer in the sense of not technical skills, but in terms of strategy, process improvement, productivity, efficiencies, cost effectiveness, like what legal work, what work should lawyers do or not? Should it be insourced or outsourced? Why does the in-house legal team exist? The third part of the business is an extension of all that, and it's, well, what technology or systems can actually help lawyers do what they need to do, or what businesses need from legal.
Thank you. So if I wanted to, if I was the CEO of a corporation and I wanted to use your firm, can you explain to me how the process would work and how you would end up placing someone within my organisation?
It's really simple. It's no different than if you wanted a traditional law firm to do the work. What's the need? What's the type of work? What's the volume of the work? When do you need it done by? And where do you want the person to sit? So we're completely indifferent where our staff sit. The client gets first choice, whether it's in their office or in our offices. As soon as the client says, don't care, as long as the work gets done by the required time and there's no stuff-ups, we then say to our staff, you can choose to work in one of our offices in Australia or New Zealand, or you can work from home.
Yeah. And this is really outsourcing work.
It's a combination. So we, on one hand, we work as a traditional law firm where a client will elect to engage us like any other law firm to do legal work where we take the responsibility for that product, or the client will say, actually, we just want an in-house lawyer to do certain work in our offices, or they can actually work remotely and do that in-house work.
And what is your relationship with the lawyers that you use? Are they freelance or are they employed by you?
It's a combination, and I mean, times change very quickly, and the reality is that 90% of people need or want permanent employment, whether it's full-time or part-time. So the last thing we want is to miss client opportunities because we don't have the right people available at the right time to do the work. So I think the ideal talent base for us is about 50% permanent, whether it's part-time or full-time, and 50% flexible, whether that's a casual employee or a subby.
And you provide legal services not just in Australia but overseas as well?
That's right.
Okay. And both within Australia and overseas, how do you manage the regulatory framework that operates?
On one hand, it's pretty simple, but on the other hand, sometimes it can become a bit more complex. And it was only this week that I had a meeting with the New Zealand Law Society to try and work through their regulatory frameworks as well. It depends on what the client wants in terms of insourcing or outsourcing, and then what risk they're prepared to take in terms of negligence. In Australia, it's pretty simple. I mean, new law, whatever that means, has existed for a few years, and I mean, there's new law practices been around for 100 years. So we work closely with the regulators in each jurisdiction in Australia to work out, okay, what type of law firm do we need to be? What type of practicing certificates do our lawyers need? And then it's really important for us that we have guidance notes and guidelines for all of our staff that are getting onboarded, that they know exactly what they need to do in each jurisdiction.
So I assume uniform law would be something you'd be advocating?
Yes, but it's neither here nor there, really. You just deal with it. You do it once, do it properly, and it just flows on.
Okay. And there is there any innovative technology that you bring to your law firm and the way in which you operate?
We do, and before we even get to technology, I think it's so often people just jump to, oh, we can buy technology or make technology and it will solve this problem. There's a whole, piece of the puzzle before that about, well, what are the systems and processes that you've actually got in place now, and are they working? And if they're not working, why? And what are you going to do to fix them on a piece of paper, on post-it notes, before you even look at technology to automate that process flow? So the first part for us is actually trying to develop a culture and teaching our lawyers to think differently. So we spend a lot of time educating our lawyers on like Lean Six Sigma, Agile, decision-making theory, before we even get to who's going to code this and make technology to actually do it better, quicker or cheaper.
Okay, and so just elaborating on that, are you using forms of technology to assist in the way in which you conduct your practice, and can you describe those for us?
Yeah, so we use everything that a normal law firm would for practice management, but we work pretty hard at actually looking at what other industries use. So we've just bought a piece of technology which a law firm would call its practice management system, but it's a combination of what we think is the best in terms of financial management through to workflow management. And that workflow management tool comes directly from IT, like a tech business. So IT have been using ticketing systems for 20 years to get workflow managed and allocated. We don't look to a law firm system to do that. We acquire a tech system, like a tech business product to make that work. We've then, 6 months ago, we actually employed our first developer, who's a lawyer as well, and that's quite a unique skill set. So someone who worked as a developer became a lawyer and can do both. And she's building technology for us now that we can deploy to our clients.
You got a view about the skill sets that
Don't
your
ask
lawyers...
me about blockchain.
No. I definitely won't ask you that. Have you got any views about the skill sets of young lawyers that are coming into the workforce, and whether the skills or the knowledge that they're acquiring at university is allowing them to transition into the profession smoothly and as quickly as possible?
The thing that I care about the most when I start working with someone who's 23, and there's two of those people in our office at the moment in Melbourne, that first and foremost that they're a good lawyer, so they understand the basic concepts of the key legal areas that we want to participate in. Whether they get certain non-core legal education at university, that would be good, but it's not essential. What I'm looking for is someone who's got a willingness to learn about non-legal skills to make them a better lawyer, not in a technical sense, but how they deliver the law. Now, that might mean tech. To me, it's probably more so than tech. The first bit is commerce, like understanding. I mean, we deliver B2B legal services, so understanding, what is cash flow, what's a P&L, what are these businesses actually, what are the clients trying to achieve, before we get into that space about learning about technology and building technology, because the reality is that they're lawyers, they're not IT designers and engineers. We'll pay someone else to do that. But if they can have the right skills to brief that tech engineer or designer properly, that would be good for me.
Do you have particular pricing models that you use? Or
Whatever the clients want.
Yep.
Completely indifferent to it. You hear a lot about fixed fee billing. I think it's got a lot of merit. The majority of our clients are sophisticated businesses, listed companies, multinationals. Still, I think the tendency is just tell us what your hourly rates are. And if you've got that level of trust with your client, they know you're not going to rip them off just because it's hourly rate work. But it doesn't worry me at all.
And what's the future for the profession, as far as you see it? Do a bit of crystal ball gazing.
I think it's exciting. I think the big firms will get really good at certain types of work and not be a one-stop shop for all types of legal work. There'll be businesses that are part lawyers, part financial people, and part technologists. I think it's really exciting. You know, all of these new law firms are making the big law firms think a bit differently. The clients get better outcomes, the lawyers learn new skills. I think it's great. Whatever it will look like, time will tell, but I think it's exciting.